Many times when someone who considers themselves normal, you can do the quotes because when it's normal, someone who considers themselves normal talks to someone who considers himself a nerd or a geek or something like that. That normal person comes up and says, "Well, do you like Star Wars or Star Trek?" So I write about that, and I talk about that a lot. And I don't know if I'm really qualified to talk about the two. I'm not like a huge fan. Some people are extremely fanatical about their mythology, but I'm not. I mean, granted, I've seen just about every Star Trek Next Generation. I've watched probably half of the original series, most of the series Voyager and the series Deep Space Nine, and I can list dozens of characters and actors and actresses, and seen the movies. You don't compare the two. It's just an opinion. I know it's an opinion. I mean, can the Enterprise defeat the Millennium Falcon? I don't even know what it's called. I don't know. But see, because it's just an opinion. You don't compare the two. I've got some examples. What I mean, like, you can either like situation comedies or crime shows. The two really don't go together. Some people have. I mean, there have been some creative writers, and they made crime series have a lot of funny parts in it. So it's kind of like a merging of genres. So it works, but that's the exception. It doesn't work for much. Just like some fan fiction has been written putting Star Trek and Star Wars together. The two have merged. Okay, but see, that's like that's creative juxtaposition. That's putting together things creatively. That's not the actual mythologies themselves. Don't go together. They're totally separate. I say apples to oranges, but that's cliche. But okay, here's some differences. I mean, difference of setting is duh. It's obvious and straightforward, because as you know, the first movie in the Star Wars mythology has been satirized over and over. The scrolling thing at the beginning says in a galaxy far, far away. You know, it's the setting is not Earth. It's somewhere else. It's something else. The characters, though many of them look human and they act human, they're not Earthlings. They're from another planet, from a galaxy far, far away. Whereas with Star Trek, it's very grounded in a place. You know, one of the major cities is San Francisco. Granted, this is in a far-flung future, 400 or 500 years away. I mean, but it's grounded in what people think is going to be the reality for that area. So it's sciencey. It's grounded in fact. That's what science fiction is. It's fiction, but it's grounded in fact. And then you take the aspect of spirituality in general. Star Wars deals a lot in the Force, in dark versus light, which is the same as good versus evil, which is very spiritual. It's a God type thing. It doesn't talk about God, it talks about the Force. you can infer it's kind of God talk in a way. With Star Trek, it's very sciencey. It's so agnostic, begging the question, does God exist? So agnostic that it separates it and it tries not to be spiritual because it focuses on the science behind everything. There is no magic in Star Trek. Star Wars has magic. It's supernatural stuff. It's fantasy. Star Wars is fantasy. And if you need a definition of what fantasy is, just look it up. Come on, really. The two don't go together. You'll never see a Wookiee on the bridge of a Romulan warbird. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about here. Wookiees are really tall, dog-like aliens that are on Star Wars. They're not in the mythology of Star Trek. Yeah, the two have some similarities. Both mythologies have aliens, they have planets, they have ships, they have robots. They don't go together, though. They don't go together. In most bookstores worldwide, they lump the two in the same section. Star Trek and Star Wars goes in science fiction fantasy. That's like a shelf called science fiction fantasy. I guess it really doesn't matter where they're placed, but they don't. It's like putting a biography, if there was such a thing, of Buddha. Buddha was a real person, based on a real person. Spiritual stuff was he found in religion or right next to like the Popular Mechanics magazine. They just don't go together. I've studied a little bit of English major, done a lot of that. Studied a little bit of library science, worked in a library for a few years in college, and I know a little bit about genres. These two genres are separate, but put them together, I guess it really doesn't matter. My point is, this is what we do with people. We put them in a category based on what they like, and then we name them a certain thing, and then we lump it with something else anyway. Each person has to stand on their own 2 feet. You don't put them in a category. You can't do that with people. Everyone is an individual. And that's what we gotta do. We gotta look at people as individuals. That's all I have to say about that for now.